Well, well, look who we have here. Yeah, crazy day, guys. Just looking at the chat here because Aurelian, happy inauguration day, fellow U.S. friends. Be safe. Yes, indeed. Be safe. Mike. Oh, speaking of Mike, I don't think I responded to your um, message in your other email, but the way this works with uh, the expertise.tv site is that I have to set it up. Each thing is a webinar. And one of the things I've been talking to with Tim about in our kind of to-do list for 2017 is we're trying to figure out a way we can embed like the old system with the YouTube through Google Hangouts into Final Search. And the developer Brian thinks that there's a way, but right now this is kind of our only option. But this isn't too bad. I mean, I think it's better than what we've had in the past. But if we can get something where it's more in Final Search and we don't necessarily have to do anything, then that's a better situation. But that's where we're at with that. John, Paige, Katrina, Linda, Sean, Keith, Eric, Jen, Kathlena on the Potomac. Woo. All right. So as I mentioned, I just want to talk about essentially what I'm going to be posting. I'm going to use this video and post a blog. And so I want to basically just go through that with you and let you ask your questions. But I think it made sense because just the way we're at with especially with the Boston folks, because I see what you're posting on the message boards and things like that. And I just feel like, there's been a lot of questions of why are we only doing one workout a week right now, and then now we've shifted into two. But there's reasoning why, and I've tried to harp on it a little bit, but apparently I've done a poor job of explaining it. So I want to go into a little more in depth with that, but I think it pertains to everybody in the Run Club and everybody who's using more schedules beyond what the book has. So if you've bought a schedule off Final Search or whatever, kind of some reasoning why things are spaced out a little bit. So I'll just jump into that. I'll get into your guys' questions, and then I'll actually probably go through some of the stuff on the message boards in the Run Club as well. So essentially, when you look at the schedules in either the Hanson's Marathon Method or the Half Marathon Method books, schedules are 18 weeks long, right? So looking at the other schedules, I've got anything from, So looking at other schedules, beginner, advanced, just in general training plans, whether Tal Higdon or Galloway or whatever, I've seen anything from 18 to 32 weeks. So there's a huge variance in there. And some of those, like the Jeff Galloway, is literally taking you from step one to running a marathon, and where I think my biggest disagreement with Galloway is I think he actually has you run a long run that's further than a marathon, several weeks before you actually do the marathon. So to me, it kind of defeats the purpose. If you really just want to be able to cover the distance, which most people using that program are in that boat. So that's where I kind of shake my head a little bit at the Galloway. But I mean, it's just because I don't know like why you would do that and then just turn around and run the race. Like you could just save yourself a lot of time and do it once. But anyway, and then personally, the personal schedules that we have are anything from 12 to 20 weeks for longer race distances. So like the half marathon and marathon distances, whereas, I think we have some 5K and 10K schedules that are even 8 weeks long. And I recently just wrote a half marathon schedule that's eight weeks long, but I'll be honest, and I was honest with that person too, is I don't see it going exactly how they want it to go, just because of all the factors in their life and all that good stuff. But the bottom line is there's a huge spectrum of weeks that you can get a plan for. And then obviously we've talked about the 9-day plan, the 9-day cycle. We've talked about the alternator where we do basically a workout during the week. And then on the weekend, you alternate between doing a long run and a workout. And it just goes into why, why are we spacing this out more? Why isn't everything just follow the book? And I think, and that's the other thing too, is I'm noticing too, is a lot of people are like, well, the book says, well, yeah, but the book is based on those particular schedules. The philosophy is the same throughout all of our schedules, but it doesn't, just because like one person said, well, one workout's 4 miles and all the other speed work is 3. It's like, but you're doing a 12-week plan that's at 90 miles a week. So in reality, that's probably actually a little less than what ideal would be. You could hand up as 5 or 6 miles worth of speed work. So you can't get too caught on the book and say, well, this schedule is so much different. Well, no. The philosophy is the same, but it's made more specific. Let's say, where the half marathon and the marathon books, you got to remember, we're trying to fit one schedule for a big spectrum of people, and where with these other schedules, now we're narrowing it down into more specific groups of people who are going to do this schedule. And that's why you're seeing the differences. So you can't start comparing what the book says to this. And, sometimes I think you way overthink things. And I don't know if it's just because obviously you're training for a marathon, it's a big deal. You feel like everything's got to go perfect, but sometimes you just get caught up way too much in some of this stuff. And so that's why we should talk about this now. So the big thing is I want to talk about is how long does it take to adapt to training? And the biggest thing is you have to understand that there's big learning curves in this. So, what a beginner needs to run a marathon and how fast they're going to adapt is going to be different to somebody who's run 10 marathons and has done several plans. Their level of readiness takes a lot less time than somebody who hasn't. So first off, let's approach these questions regarding the schedules in the book. The primary difference between the beginner and the advanced schedule is that the beginner schedule in the book is the first few weeks. So if you look at the beginner to the advanced, the biggest difference is that first month or so, where it's in the beginner, it's simply mileage. We're taking you from a little bit of mileage and building you up to, 25, 30 miles a week before you start doing workouts. And then after that, you start doing workouts. And after that, essentially the beginner and the advanced are pretty much the same, maybe just a few minor differences. So with the advanced schedule, you jump right into the SOS days, the workout days, right after the first week. And then we also know that it takes 4 to 6 weeks to fully adapt to a training stress. So you can look at, if you've read any of the Daniels books, I just did a quick Google search. Pete Fitzinger, he says the same thing, and he says he learned that from Daniels. So we're pretty confident it takes 4 to 6 weeks to fully adapt to a training stress. So what do I mean by what I mean by a training stress is that I'm referring to the acronym FIT, F-I-T-T. Frequency is a frequency. How often are we exercise? Intensity, the intensity of the exercise. Time, the amount of time we are exercising per session, and the type of exercise that we are engaging. So in general, we know 3 things about training adaptation. The first is that it is individual. So we either have to work directly with each individual athlete or make some generalizations. So in this case, with pre-made plans, we're making some generalizations. And we know that, that the first generalization is that it takes roughly 10 days to experience full benefit from a single workout. So where it takes 4 to 6 weeks to adapt to that workout or that stress being placed on the body repeatedly and consistently, to see the full benefit of a workout takes about 10 days. So that might look familiar to you. About 10 days out is your last major workout from the marathon, and that's really the reasoning why. So 10 days to feel the benefit of a single workout, 4 to 6 weeks to really gain the max you can from that level of stress being emphasized on your training. So for beginners, the plan, we're making several assumptions. Let's see, make sure I didn't miss anything there. Okay, all right. So beginners, we're making several assumptions at the start. That 1, you're running low mileage. 2, you're running less than 6 days a week. And 3, that you aren't running very long per session. So maybe you're running 30 minutes a day and not 60 minutes a day. So it's fairly low compared to what we're trying to train for. And then 4 is that you aren't doing any workouts. You're just simply going out the door and running. And if we look back at the FIT, the F-I-T-T, we see that our assumptions involve 3 of the 4 variables in increasing fitness. So gaining fitness through training adaptation is a balance between stress and recovery. So let's say you are attempting to start a beginning plan and just running a few easy days a week. So you start the program and it calls for 5 days a week with a long run. maybe a workout or two in the first week. So if we do that, we have now altered 3 current variables. So we've for most people, this is a recipe for injury and overtraining, right? So if we just throw you, that's the old too much, too fast idea, right? So making it through a training program of this nature, it really typically ends in being more about survival than gaining fitness. So now if you look at our schedule, the same person, we're still adding a new stress, but we limit the frequency and time. So the intensity is left the same because we're going to keep the intensity easy. So by taking away that one variable, we can now provide the beginner enough to establish a base fitness. And in all actuality, you're going to improve your base fitness just by engaging in that. So we're trying to control some of these variables, right? That's the bottom line. We're trying to control variables and not expose you to too much too soon in that beginner program. Now, what does this have to do with how fast we adapt to training? Okay, so for the beginner, fitness will actually come pretty fast in terms of physiological fitness. VO2 max, endurance, etc. will all increase pretty rapidly. Where we typically have problems is structural, so something like bones or tendons. Think of it this way: when you've started running, or someone you know started running, what was the first thing they really complained about hurting? You know, working in a shoe store, the first thing I ever always heard was shin splints or knee pain or something like that. It wasn't that their lung capacity stopped them from exercising or their breathing stopped them from exercising. It was their shins hurt or their knees hurt or their hips hurt. It was something structural that limited their ability to exercise. So another way to look at it, why not focus first on the 2 variables that beginners will get the most bang from their buck, and that's going to be just increasing the duration and increasing the frequency. Don't do anything with intensity, and type is not going to be changed anyway. Focus on the foundation first, and the rest becomes easier. So by focusing on these variables, the frequency and time, we set the stage for the body to gain fitness without breaking down and setting the stage for other adaptations to take place, right? So, you think of it this way: the marathon is 99% aerobic, so why not establish that aerobic fitness first and allow those other adaptations time to get in? So when you look at the beginner plan, you essentially have 4 weeks of building base, followed by 6 weeks of speed, 6 weeks of strength, wrapped up by roughly a 2-week taper. So there you go. So you're spending 4 weeks building base, which is in that 4 to 6 weeks of maximizing your fitness at a certain stress level, 6 weeks of that speed, which is maximizing that stress level, and then 6 weeks of strength, which is maximizing that stress level. So that's why it's broken up that way. And then 2 weeks, roughly a 2-week taper. Now, does this mean you will maximize your fitness in 18 weeks? No, absolutely not. You're going to maximize it for this segment, right? But you can turn around and come back, and you're already going to be at a higher level of fitness, and that's where the rest of this presentation is going to go, is what happens at that point. And so also looking at it from a practical standpoint, putting your emphasis on one goal race 4.5 months away is an awful long time. So in short, 18 weeks is a good compromise of science and practicability for a marathon training summit. It gives us enough time to train and adapt and be completely prepared to run the race, but it also doesn't force you to spend 6 months of the year for one race. And now you're opening things up to where you can race other things. And so that's where the 18 weeks really comes from in that. All right, so the last thing I should note on the FIT principle: if you exercise 3 days a week, you will certainly gain fitness across a period of time. Now, if you can safely exercise 5 times a week, you can certainly make those gains in a shorter amount of time. So that also affects the length of what a schedule would be. So if you're exercising 3 days a week, now we need more time to get to the same fitness level, because we're exposing ourselves less frequently to a training stress. So we need more time to adapt to that. So that person's going to need at least 6 weeks to adapt to a certain training, because they're not optimally exposing themselves to that training stress. And that's why you'll see some variations plans, because at some point we were assuming that gains in fitness will take longer to come by if exposure to the training system is less. And that's really more for like beginners and low mileage runners, where it is going to take, if you're running 3 or 4 days a week, it's going to certainly take you longer than 5 or 6 days a week. And then we have to set our right. So Sean, yeah, right. That's absolutely right. Like, it feels like crap the first few weeks, and then you finally get into a rhythm, and then I go ahead and then I change it up on you, right? So, but that's that 4 to 6 weeks is really that window for adaptation. So no, that's a great. But also, so but then you take it into somebody who's already high fitness level. They don't need to cram in a bunch of workouts to reach that peak fitness level, and that's what we're going to get into a little bit later as well. So now moving on to the advanced. For the advanced, the marathon plan also had some assumptions to be made. And the first is that you have experience in the marathon, and secondly, that you have been running consistently leading up to the beginning of the plan, and third, that your mileage is going to be higher than someone who is starting a beginner plan. And so with that, the immediate difference of the second week of the program, since we aren't going to adjust frequency, time, or duration very much, so you're already at a fairly high level, we don't need to touch that as much as we would with a beginner. We don't need to build you up as much because you're already there or have been there. It's not a big jump, and it's not a jump to a new level. So now one could argue that we should shorten the training segment down, and that's certainly an argument that I would listen to. But since this is a general program, we can go into another generalization of training adaptation, and that is that the idea over time, a runner needs more stress to elicit a response. So think about it this way: when you first began to run a 3-mile run, just running 3 miles might have been your primary goal. Maybe running a 5K without stopping. That was your only goal with running at the time. Now, let's say you're in the advanced plan, a 3-mile run is nothing. And if you were to run it at the same pace you ran when you first ran, you would be like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna be here all day. So the bottom line of that is you need a higher amount of stress than what you needed in the past in order to gain fitness now, right? So that is why now we've added more speed. So for most of you, this is a cakewalk, meaning that you need more stress to elicit more adaptation and training, and that's where we get into. So okay, with this you have two options: either make the speed work faster or simply do more of it. And with this, you might be naturally faster since your last marathon segment. Ideally, you PR'd and you moved up, and maybe you ran some races between your last marathon and the beginning of this marathon. So you've lowered your 10K time or your 5K times, whatever the case is. So we don't need. So the idea is we don't necessarily need to mess with that. And since I'm already making a generalization, and I'm not necessarily working with you individually, I'm going to take the safe side and simply add more weeks of that. Because that's adding more weeks to that can also be the increased level of stress to increase training adaptation. And along with that, since going too fast too early in a training segment can be detrimental to the rest of the segment, basically we dig ourselves too much of a hole that we can't get out of as far as fatigue goes. It makes more sense not to adjust the pace even more, but to control the number of weeks. And once past the speed portion of the training, the segment looks much the same as the beginner. And the reason is that this is already the higher mileage in a really grinding several weeks. So there is no need to make it more difficult. So there I'm saying more of a balance between you're already grinding it out, you're already doing 8, 9, 10 mile tempos, you're already doing strength. And so on the other thing you could say about that is, say you ran 3:45 in the marathon. And so now you're going to jump it up to, so my next goal is, 3:35. So you're going to make a 10-minute jump. So we're already going above and beyond what we can currently do, right? So early on, that tempo run is going to be hard. And those 8, 9, 10 mile tempos are going to be hard too, because it's already training at a pace that's at a higher level than what you've currently been at, right? So I don't need to continually adjust those things because they're naturally going to be higher simply because of our goal in the race. You know what I mean? So if our time goal is faster, that means our paces are going to be faster anyway. So we don't necessarily need to mess with that. That increase in the goal time is essentially the new stress that we're eliciting to our body to adapt to. Okay, so hopefully that made sense. So a note about tempo runs on both schedules. As you probably noticed, I didn't really discuss until just now, and the reason is really twofold. The first is that we're gradually ratcheting up throughout the schedule. So we're regularly adjusting the duration while keeping the frequency and intensity the same. So your 10-mile tempo run is the same pace as your 4-mile tempo run. The effort might feel different, but the intensity should be the same throughout the schedule, and it's going to be faster. But ideally, too, going back to my previous point is, even though it's faster, ideally you're gaining fitness throughout that whole time of the schedule. So that 10-mile tempo run doesn't necessarily feel any more difficult than the 4-mile did, because it was at the 4-mile level, it might have been a pace that was a little fast, but it's 10-mile level. By the time you get to that point, you've adapted and you're accustomed, and your body is ready to handle that marathon pace. So ideally, it all levels out. So I don't want to get to the point where you feel comfortable at a pace and then you decide, okay, so here's my big thing. So let's say your goal is 4 hours and you run your tempo runs at goal pace. Now, I don't want you to get to the point where you feel comfortable at a pace and then decide, well, 4 hours is I can easily do 4 hours. So let's go up to 3:45, let's say. And by the time you get to the 9-10 mile tempo runs, you change your goal pace to 3:30 for some period. And for some people, that's I've seen that happen. I get those emails all the time. So now this might not be doable. So ask yourself this: if my original goal is 4 hours, do I want to risk overestimating my ability from the tempo runs only to crash and burn at 20 miles and walk it in and run 4:15? Are you going to be happy with that? Like, you could have run 4 hours, but you decided to go after a really big goal, and then it costs you your original 4-hour goal. That's what you have to ask yourself. And so some of it's physiological that we do it, but some of it's also like, okay, let's just get used to this goal pace and feel as confident as we can at hitting our original goal pace. I would rather have you develop laser focus on that original goal pace, develop that confidence in your ability to nail that goal pace, and then I want to set you up for success. So that's why, so there's what we can talk about on the tempo runs. All right. Okay. And okay, so now I want to talk about so let's say you've gone through one of the basic programs, the beginner or the advanced program, which many of you had. So this really brings us into, and I'm not a affiliate for Speedway Coffee, by the way, so I'm not promoting anything here. It's just what's across the street. But ideally, so you've gone through one of our programs, and now some of you are into our programs where it's not that 18-week program. It's it's our Boston program, or it's our one of our 16 weeks or 12-week, whatever the case is. You're doing something different, and so now you go like, well, why are things a little separated here? So to tie this into the idea that having shorter schedules, more spaced out workouts, but still being in top fitness, I have to bring in the two last generalizations of training adaptation. So the first is that consistent training makes it easier, quote unquote, easier to reach peak fitness. And the second is the rule of ease of maintenance. And this is essentially the idea that, let's say you had the idea of breaking 20 minutes in the 5K, you trained all summer. By the end of the summer, you poured your heart and your soul into it, and you ran 1950. So you broke your goal, but you just think about, it was a monumental effort to do it. I put in so much work to do it. I trained all summer. It was everything I had to run that 1950. So then you run that 1950 at the end of the summer, you take a little break, you just start running again, you do your maintenance mileage. You got, so if you're running 40 miles a week, you're running, 30 miles a week, you do a workout here and there, some long runs here and there. You go to say, I'm going to run the turkey trot. Go to the turkey trot, boom, 1945. So there you are, finish line, drumstick in your mouth, gnawing on a turkey leg. You're wondering what the heck just happened, right? So how did I pull that off? That's the ease of maintenance, right? So once you've reached that level, it's not going to take nearly as much work to get back to that level. And it might not take as much work to get to a slightly higher level. So that's the ease of maintenance. The second part of that is once you establish that new level and you just keep training at a decent level, and you make the time and to do the work to reach that new fitness level less. Well, like I just said, like everything kind of starts narrowing down. And so that's why I'm big on the consistent training at moderate levels. And then once you can do that, you're never really more than a couple months away from really being in peak fitness for anything, really. I mean, anything from 5K to a marathon. If you keep that base level fitness high, you're never too far away from any race you want to do. Okay, so put this way, say you slacked off before your first training segment and you were at about 50% of your peak fitness. That's probably an overestimation, but let's just use it. You probably needed every day of that 18 weeks to reach that peak fitness level, that 100% level. Afterwards, you took your recovery, you started getting serious about running, so you kept your mileage higher, you did your maintenance workouts weekly, and then you decided to run another marathon. You know, maybe this is even like 3 months down the road, and you just kind of stayed steady keel, treaded water, kept your fitness level, you know, there. And this time you're starting out at this marathon segment at 70% of your peak fitness. So even, and this is even though you've reached, you know, that first segment, your peak fitness level was here. Now you're starting a new level and it's here, and you're at 70% of that new level, where before you were 50% of that even lower level. So essentially you're at a higher fitness level. Your ability to perform is just at a higher level because you've done training and you've kept your fitness at somewhat of a high level. So what that means is we don't have to force a long segment because we're already closer to our peak fitness. You know, we don't at this time 18. You don't need that full 18 weeks to get completely ready. And all honestly, it might be detrimental, but that's when people start getting into overtraining because they try to do as much or more work to get to that fitness level. When in reality, what you should be focusing on is, you know, you can space things out. You know, the recovery can be right. You know, all these things go on. So that's why when you see the schedules that I have on Final Surge or Boston schedule, whatever, there's going to be a wide variance in the weekly mileage, spacing of workouts, number of weeks. You know, the more experienced you become, the more you learn about your own needs and abilities. And so that's why those options are out there. Because like some people do it. Like if you're a slow responder to training and you know, man, I need every workout I can get, then I need a 3 workout a week program. And that's meaning 2 workouts during the week and then a long run. Or if you're somebody who knows, man, it takes me forever to recover from workouts, there's no way I can do it. You know, you're going to need a workout. You're going to need a schedule that is spaced out more, you know. Or if you're like, man, I've trained at a high level all the time. I don't need 18 weeks. I know I can be ready in 12 weeks. Like when I sent that message the other day, I am not lying. Like I'm running Boston and I haven't done a single workout yet. Like give me 10 weeks. I'll be fine. Like right now I'm going to be between 90 and 100 miles this week. I'm going to get up to 120 in the next couple of weeks, and then I'll start workouts, and I'll be better off that way than if I did 18 weeks and just tried to cram a bunch of workouts in. Like to me, that's just going to get me injured. I just know my body. I know there's some 85,000 miles on these legs. Like they don't need to do all the same stuff I did back then. Like, do I need to work hard? Absolutely. But recovering is also a big part of it too. So, you know, so that's why we can space things out. We can do a 12-week schedule, space it out. For my Boston crew, that's why, like, most of you ran a fall marathon. A lot of you did a base program. I saw you either bought it from us or I know you were doing something. So I know you were running. So for me, it didn't make sense. And this is where I ran into problems last time, is I threw people into doing 2 workouts a week right away. And I had that mentality too, like, okay, we got to get these guys peak fitness. And you're already high strung because it's Boston. And you're already talking about, oh gosh, I need to do this, I need to do that. Well, no, what you need to do is take a deep breath, realize it's January, realize things don't have to be ready right now. Like honestly, if you feel so good right now in training, I'm a little worried. You know, like I want you to kind of feel like, man, I'm still hoping that I'm going to be building up right here. That's kind of where I want you to be. Like the beginning, the onset of fatigue, it should be going on right now in these next week or two, especially because you've started doing more workouts now. But that first month is really just about establishing the routine again. Like if we started throwing in a bunch of workouts right away, you're going to be fit. You're going to be at your peak fitness in the first part of March. That means then we have to do hard workouts, not taper, and try not to get hurt for the next 6 weeks and try not to get stale. Whereas by delaying what we've done that first 4 weeks, now we're going to be building fitness at the right time, right? That high workload level is going to be from the first part of, or the mid to late February into the end of March. And then you get into that last 2 weeks and then we start tapering. So that I want that 6 weeks from late February to the beginning of April. I want that to be like, man, now I'm really working hard, because that means we're going to time it right. And then we're going to take our taper at the right time. And you're going to have that super compensation effect, and your fitness is just going to go through the roof. So that's why we do it. So that's why I like when people are pushing on stuff and they're trying to do all these extra things. Like if you want to do extra things, focus on things like flexibility. Make sure your recovery's right. Make sure your nutrition's right. Make sure you're doing your core work, doing your dynamic warm-ups. Those are the little things that you should, like, if you really, really want to take your fitness to a new level, it's not these extra workouts that you're trying to cram in. It's going to be these little details that become routine that you can take through with you when you're doing the really high level of training. And so, you don't need to, like, you're going to be adapting because your fitness is at such a high level. And that little stuff is what's going to make you more resilient when the training is really hard later on. So right now, just doing more work is just going to make you more tired for when you do the high level of training. And that's not what we want. We want you to hit that high level of training and then really get into that cumulative fatigue in that 6 weeks and then taper out of that last 2 weeks. So hopefully that makes sense to you. So next time, so I really wanted to talk about, so I want to talk about that today, and then I'll take your questions here. Sorry, I'm talking on my hands a lot. Okay, so I have a screen up in front of me, so I'm not really seeing it. Next time, I want to talk about a couple things, because this already at a half an hour with this. And that what I would talk about, what happens when you try to rush a process, which we kind of just talked about. Like when you try to rush it and try to cram all these workouts in, it usually means you're going to get too fit too fast, and then you're going to be stale. So if anything, space things out early on and really aim for that last 6 weeks to be 6 to 8 weeks to, well, 2 weeks for taper and then 6 to 8 weeks out for your really heavy training. So if you're the person that trains at a very high level all the time, that's why you can get away with a 10 to 12 week schedule. I feel like most people at, like, say, like a 60, 70 mile week, 14 weeks for a segment is pretty good because we'll space things out a little bit and then just start and then ramp it up and make that last 6 weeks pretty intense for you. So, so we guess we actually already talked about that and what happens when we treat every single workout like it's the most important. Now we can talk about that right now. So what happens when you treat every single workout like it's more? And this is honestly a big downfall I had early in my career because I felt like if I nailed every workout, it was going to be the best race segment of my life. And it turned out to be a great training segment, but I rarely raced well when I put a huge amount of emphasis on every workout. Because one, when you treat it like it's the most important, you put an overemphasis on every workout. So like if we know we can go out in our sleep and do a 12 by 400, don't make it harder than it needs to be. Go in there and get the work that you need to get done. Move on, because we know, like, say you have a 20 miler coming up that's got 3 hard at the end. That's something you need to get keyed up for because that's more of a race situation, or a long tempo run. That's more of a race situation. That's something that you can get keyed up because you're really practicing what you're going to do for a race. You want to practice your fueling, practice your hydration. Those things you can get keyed up for. But workouts you can hit, there's no reason to get amped up for them more than you need to because it's just puts you at a higher stress level. And a lot of times you end up cheating down the workout and getting overzealous in the workout. And then you just really, because it's all about that balance of stress and recovery. And if you put undue stress on a workout that is really just meant to get you through, then it makes recovering from that a lot harder. And that's what I want to avoid. Like not every, like for us, hard workouts that I get amped for, obviously the simulator, the 2x6, or something like a 3x3 mile workout. That's something I get really keyed up for. That's something that's going to get us really pumped up, like ready to race day. And so, but something like some workout we do early on is like a 3x2 at marathon pace. Like I'm just trying to feel as comfortable as I can on that. That's not something I want to really get after. So I really want you to think about that too. Like what workouts do I look at on the schedule and I know, like, dang, this is going to be hard. Those are the workouts I want you to put the most emphasis on, not the simple stuff that you can do already. And that will be a big help to you later on. Otherwise, I feel like you just dig holes that you cannot get out of. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. There's a lot more in the training adaptation we get into, but the big thing you need to know is, like, it takes 10 days really to experience the benefit of a workout. That's in general. So like you can say like neuromuscular stuff is very short, and actually that it is. So like if you do strides, you can actually feel the effect of that stride within a couple of days as far as coordination and things like that. Not actually anything physiological, but that would be 6 weeks as well too. But it just takes that 4 to 6 weeks for the body to kind of make those physiological changes, on a gene level, on a hormone level, on a actual structural change level as far as mitochondrial development, things like that. Those things just take time. So really have yourself 4 to 6 weeks at a stress level, and you can adapt. And then the other things are that once you reach a new level, you have to know that you can realize, like, if I maintain my training. So now some of you didn't do anything after a fall marathon, and so that puts you back a little bit more than somebody who, like, say you did a beginner plan, you're running high mileage, then took your time off for the marathon, and you're like, well, which would fit for a lot of people, because then the holidays came and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna run 20 miles a week, I'm just trying to get through. But then you get into the marathon training again, and you might be a little bit behind that. So those people, but that's why even with the Boston schedule, we can make it 18 weeks, because whether we're either just trying to space things out, or we're not trying to get you too much too soon, so that it gives you time to build your fitness, that first 4 weeks is a good block of time to just kind of gradually build up. So remember those things. And then, so ease of maintenance is the big one too. So once you get to that new level, it's not going to take as much work. We can do that. And the other thing too with adaptation, the adaptation isn't necessarily the work itself, right? It's how you recovered from that work. So if you're somebody who's super, super busy and you don't treat your recovery as serious as you treat your workout, you're actually going to have a harder time adapting to that workout, because let's say you're limiting the fuel, you're not getting the rest you need, you're not getting the vitamins and minerals you need, and you're not getting the hydration you need. So those are all factors in at adapting, because what you're doing is you're putting your body under duress, right? And then it triggers something, and to trigger that, if it doesn't have the components it needs to, let's say, build mitochondria, you're screwed, right? You did all that work, but it has nothing to build on from that as far as from a nutrition standpoint. So that's why it's not necessarily the workout itself, and you can have a million workouts underneath your belt, but if you never gave yourself enough fuel to recover, or the rest to recover, then that adaptation is going to be harder to come by. So hopefully that makes sense to you, Ross. All right, so let's get into some of these questions here. So let's start with Eric is asking, I'm in the camp of concern about getting too fit too fast. Past 3 marathons I trained with Hanson's beginner plan. For Boston, I'm training with a plan that peaks at 75 miles a week, which is probably a big jump if you did 3 with the beginner plan. So the past month I've been running 50 mile, which is basically what you peak out at the beginner plan. Will be continuing to increase over the next 2 months. I already feel that, well, yeah, because you're already running at what you were peaked at with the beginner plan. So I'm a little concerned I'm going to peak too soon, overtrain. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I wish I don't know if you talked to us, but hopefully you would have talked to us before, because I would have definitely steered you into that beginner plan, which would have peaked out about 60 miles a week. So yeah, you might have to scale some stuff back right now. Whether that's cutting out one of the workouts a week, or just maybe even taking the 75-mile a week plan out and putting the 50-mile a week plan in, that might be your best option, because then you're just scaling the workouts back, because you're doing workouts that are pretty intensive, and you're going to do a lot harder workouts. So that's kind of what I would do. I would maybe get rid of the 75-mile a week plan and put the 50-mile a week plan in there, and go from there, because that'll scale you back. Because yeah, I agree. That would definitely be a big concern for all those things. Fortunately, I haven't been feeling fatigued yet, so I don't know. I mean, personally, I would still do that, but just to be safe with it, because yeah, you're going to ramp up about 15 miles a week from what you're used to with the beginner plan, and we're going to be doing harder workouts. So I would go on. I would strongly consider that. Yes. So Paige, I'm doing long runs on Saturdays. Would like to know the proper spread. It depends. It honestly depends. Like, I know you emailed me this, and this was what I was trying to get to. The point was, like, it doesn't matter. Like, if it's Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, it doesn't matter. And it depends on each person. Like, if you are, that's why I have a note in the PDF, in the final surge on the Boston plans, is like, if you are really tired, don't worry about switching the workout around to give you 2 days of recovery between the 2 SOS days. So instead of going Monday, Wednesday, don't be afraid to go Monday, Thursday, Like that's fine. You need to recover as much as you need to put in hard work. And so yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean, it can be one day if you're a younger person and you recover fast, if you're a person that's 30 versus a person who's 50, the person who's 50 probably has to have an extra day to recover. Like I know I need an extra day to recover. So I would, it definitely depends. Like if you are recovering off of one day, you go and work out, easy day workout, that's fine. That's not a problem. But if you know you need that extra day, it's fine to go work out off day or easy day workout. So it's you. I mean, I felt like you were overthinking that a little bit. Like it's not. I didn't write the Bible. It's ideas, and so it doesn't have to. It wasn't the Ten Commandments or anything like that. So there's leeway here. Like the book is. Again, I go back to the idea where people are taking what is in the book for those schedules and trying to extrapolate that out to another specific schedule where the philosophy is the same, but we can make it more individualized, and that's key. Where I think you have to look past the book a little bit and listen to what I'm telling you as far as that. So if you feel like you need a day, take that extra day. If you feel, and this is where you get into the difference between cumulative fatigue and overtraining. Like if you start only giving yourself one day recovery and all of a sudden your tempo runs are always suffering, that's your clue to give yourself one more day recovery and do it, on Thursday or, whatever it works out to be. And then, you can bounce back into your long run. Like, better than anybody what you need, unless, so that's how I would approach it. All right. So Keith, you're with Eric too. I'm in the Boston 75. I'm doing well so far. Last outside workout. Hilly 6 miles at pace or effort was actually faster than my initial goal marathon. That was a 1 mile loop, and I ran the first 4 miles conservatively, no faster. And then, so I mean, to me, I feel like you consciously picked it up. Where if you're worried about getting too fit too fast, that's one thing you don't want to do. You don't want, you don't need that campus kick. You can, we know you're going to be fit. It felt comfortable and it was a good day. If my marathon pace effort faster than, if MP, well, it'd just be marathon effort is faster than goal marathon pace, will that change as training fatigue ramps? Yeah, probably, especially since that first 4 weeks was pretty softball for a lot of you. So yeah, that is going to feel harder. And so my advice to you would be is don't push it now. Like let it feel comfortable now. Let it feel easy now, because later on it's not going to. And you don't want to dig that hole that you can't get out of. Like you can be a workout champ now, but you want to be able to hit the workouts later too. So just be careful if that is what I would say. All right, so Sean, I am lucky enough to live by a park here in San Francisco with gentle rolling hills. Depending on what direction you go, one side is downhill for 2 miles, one is uphill for 2 miles. Uphill section I do is 3 to 5% grade, and my last workout marathon pace was 7:05 pace. Is that type of? Yeah, I mean, if that's what you have, that's what you have to use. That's the bottom line on that too. Is like if you can't control the terrain where you live, and so that's fine. 3 to 5% is fine. As long as you're truly using marathon effort, that's fine. That makes sense. It'd be about 15 seconds slower than what your goal is. So yeah, I think that's absolutely fine. Really in long run adjustments to the formula from the book, 20 to 25% of weekly volume is yes. We are in that same ballpark. Might creep up to about 30%, but most literature is 25 to 30%. So because when you look at the just the marathon book itself, it's not right at 25%. It's small percentage different, but yeah, that's a factor I use all the time. Nutrition, meal planning, feel free to move this to next Q&A if not on today's topic. My situation is I can go running after work. Usually that's 7 to 7:30. Workout, shower, take 2 hours, which means I'm at dinner at 10, and at 11:30 I'm heading to bed. You know where this is going, but what should I have for dinner and how should I space my meals during the day? That I'll talk that that's more of a nutrition. That's more of a nutrition talk. But I think as far as you go, make sure, and I think this goes on to your next question. So I'll just move on to so that first part. Yeah, I would say that's a different topic because that's more general nutrition we can talk about. All right, so nutrition, same thing. What's your take on supplements, especially protein shakes after hard? Yeah, I'm a, like so. Here's what I do, guys. Is I live roughly 45 minutes away from where the team trains every day. And so depending on what time I leave. So if I leave at 7 a.m., it's pretty wide open. If I leave at 7:15, it's traffic. So it can take 30 minutes to an hour. And then my office is in Rochester Hills, where I'm at right now. And so I essentially live out of my duffel bag for the day. Like I have to have everything packed. And so for me, it's not like I get done with a workout and I step back in and I'm in my kitchen and I can get whatever I want. So I have to be diligent on what I pack. So I do like we use my wife and I use an Isagenix product. It's I use the IsaPro, which is like 36 grams of protein, but it's also a bunch of carbohydrates and it's also 23 vitamins and minerals, especially trace minerals, which we don't get anything in our food anymore. So that's what I do, and that's my first step after a really hard workout. After an easy day run, probably not as big a deal, but after a hard workout, absolutely, I will do that. So I'm with you. I'm a big believer on that because that's what I know I can take right away. It's going to jumpstart my recovery. I don't have time to get a real meal, and I don't want to eat crap. So that's what I use for to make sure my recovery is on the right path. So yeah, I'm with you on that. Yeah, and exactly. When you want that recovery after a hard workout and you're already late at night, you've probably been a while without a meal. Yeah, absolutely. I'm totally 100% with you on that one. Can you include long runs on getting too fit too soon? It looks like this weekend we'll have an 18-miler. If it ain't it too long? No, it's not. It's not too long. No, I know. I understand you guys are asking all these questions, but like, yeah, it's 18 miles. Like if you're running a 75-mile a week plan, you should be able to handle 18 mile. That's not an overreach right now. Like my first long run will probably be 20, and I won't have done anything over 12 or 14 in months. So no, that's so as much as I agree with you on the last one, I disagree with you on this one. All right, so I would love to know more about faster training blocks between marathon compact can impact oh my gosh, I can't talk, guys. I'm sorry. Can impact start over, Humphrey. Can impact adaptability for marathon training. I'm just finishing a half plan and jumping into Boston. My head is full of what seems like crazy ambitious goals. Well, I guess I'm not 100% following you on there. You're drifting kind of like how I drift on some of my thoughts a little bit. Let me make sure I'm focusing. So let's tackle the first part. Okay, I'd love to know more about faster training blocks between marathons can impact it. Okay, so yeah, absolutely. So like with the marathon plan, if you follow what I tell you, we're never going faster than really 10K pace in a marathon segment. So we're really depending on the person. Either way, we're really more just above lactate threshold. We're not at that true quote unquote speed pace. But that's by design because if we go too fast, that's too much stress on the body, especially that early in the marathon segment. So let's say you completed that marathon segment, you go into, for a half marathon segment, you're getting into something that's probably a little bit faster. So you've already done a lot of stuff at that lactate threshold, which I think you're asking about now. But yeah, so you've already got like a big, that strength component, what would traditionally be that strength component in. And so now 12 weeks out, you're ready to go. So, I mean, you've already done a few things like so you especially don't need to go back and revisit all the stuff you just did in the half. You can essentially just go into the marathon specific part of a schedule and be okay because you've already done all that work before. That's just not going to go away. Whatever level you're at from that half marathon plan, it's not gonna go away. It's not gonna be completely there if you took your downtime, but it's not going to be completely away either. So no, yeah, you're gonna be okay. It's just a matter. We don't need to. When you go into that marathon part of the, transition from the half marathon to the marathon, you don't need to go back and revisit, do speed work every week. If you do one or two during that last 3 months, you'll be fine. You can just put all your focus on the marathon. So, and sometimes that's good for people, especially if you were in a rut where like I just did marathon. I didn't do anything beyond that. You change gears and do something where you put a completely different focus on it and then come back. That sometimes is a jump start to your fitness as well. So no, I think you'll be okay. To do Kathleen camp. Any updates on summer? Yeah, sign up. Go to hansonscoachingservices.com, click the camp, sign up. Reservations are waiting at the hotel. Just got to call them. No, we're ready to roll. We're just waiting for people to sign up. Yeah, all the dates are on there too. So yeah, everything you need to know right on there. So hansonscoachingservices.com. John, first marathon was last November. I had been running about 3.5 years now. I've used, I'm assuming that's Fitzinger's 1850. Okay, so 18 weeks, 55 miles a week, and felt some fatigue, but it was never daunting. I did the recovery schedule and spent the rest of the time leading up to the start of this intermediate 50 to 70 week plan, building up to a base of 45 to 50. I'm slower than most of this mileage, but I find I recover well and the mileage isn't bad. Okay. So last marathon I was able to run at goal pace until 24 and 25, and I found my legs again, got back at pace. Is this intermediate plan a good fit? Well, I mean, it is a 12-week plan. I feel like I lost too much fitness, but I didn't PR any other races during or after marathon. So I guess I'm not quite sure what you're asking, John. I mean, I feel like it's a good fit. I feel like if you're got your base up to 50 miles a week, then yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on what you're going to be training for as far as a time. And if you haven't lost any fitness, yeah, I feel like you're gonna be fine. I'm not sure that you didn't PR any other rate with my. I don't know. I guess I'm not sure. Are you asking with my plan? I'm not my plan or what? I mean, if it's 12-week plan, my dedication is getting you to the marathon, not other races. So I don't know. Maybe send me a message or post it on the message board or send me an email or something because I'm not quite sure I'm following you on what you're asking on that. Sean, I know there have been some questions about hill repeats. The way I interpret my schedule: 12 by 3 hard up and downhill with 2-minute recoveries. Go uphill hard for 3 minutes, correct. Jog for 2 minutes, correct. Go back downhill hard for 3 minutes, correct. Jog 2 minutes and repeat, correct. No, do not repeat 12 times. Repeat. So you're basically up 6 times and down 6 times hard. That's the only place you're off. So yeah, you're doing too much. So yeah, no, I think that's why people are getting a lot of the extra mileage too. It should be 3 up, or I'm sorry, 3 up, 3 down. Constitute each time you go up, each time you go down is a hill. So it'd be 6 up, 6 down. Okay. And Kathleen, more specifically, I ran 325 in September. I've trained to run a 132 next weekend. If successful, that would imply I could do 310 to 15, which would be like a big jump. Yeah, I think it could be doable, but I think if you're concerned about it, set your PR or set your goal at 320. But I feel like, wasn't Erie warm? I feel like Erie was very warm this past year too. So 315, I mean, you might have been able to run 320 at Erie anyway. So I would say if you're cautious, go 320. And you can still run faster than 320 by being a little bit undertrained on it than if you were to overtrain and try to run 310. Like I think 310 might be too big of a jump. So I would say maybe between 315 and 320 is where you'd want to set your goal. So that's kind of where I would put it. And that'll put you'll feel comfortable, you'll feel confident that you can do that. I think then next time go after that 310. So I think that's where you want to be at. Sean, sign up in 2 weeks. What I would basically, Well, basically, I would combine it as your tempo and your long run for the week. So instead of doing a tempo run or some marathon pace workout that week, I would just make that an easy day. Don't really cut your mileage back at all. Run, do like a 3 mile warm up, do the workout, 3 mile cool down. And that puts you 18 miles total for the day. So you kill two birds with one stone. That's how I do it. And then make sure and then the only thing I would say on the other end of that though is if you have to move things back the next week. So like, let's say you do a workout, you're supposed to do a workout. Let's say you race Sunday and you're supposed to do a workout Tuesday. Don't hesitate to move that to Wednesday and kind of shift everything over by a day. And then see how that works out for you. So that's the only thing I would say. So good. No, I think that's excellent. Let me look at, there is a question. So this is from the Run Club message board. When I do any of so this is from Linda. This is the only one I really saw that needed attention. So when I do any of my SOS workouts, I usually run the hills of effort, which means my pace is slower, right? So for example, Monday I did the 6x800 to MP minus 20. So she's doing the marathon plan. On the hillier sections, and my effort was good, but my pace was slow. And then the downhill sections, my pace was a little fast, but with the same effort. Right. That's exactly what will happen. That's when I say like do a tempo run on a hilly terrain. Like that workout, I didn't really specify that I wanted on hilly terrain. I just wanted it MP minus 20 to control the speed. So you kind of made it harder than you needed to, but that's okay, whatever. But when you see like do your tempo run on a hillier terrain, it's exactly what I'm talking about. You're going to see paces that are fast. You're going to see paces that are slow. So I want you to focus on the effort and see what the pace is overall. So don't put your emphasis on 1 mile. Put your emphasis on, okay, can I run the effort? I'm going to have miles that are fast, miles that are slow. How close do I get to overall marathon pace at the end of the tempo? That's exactly what I'm talking about when I give that to you. So my question is it, since it's early in the program, should I be running the hills of effort with a slower pace? When I designate a hillier workout, like a tempo run on a hillier terrain, that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's exactly what I'm talking about. So hopefully that answers you on there, Linda. And then Linda SS, that is why hill business. Don't stress. Again, you guys are putting too much stress on yourself over this. It's all about effort. I just want you to put effort. So I don't want you to focus on the pace, because what you're going to do is you're going to focus on a pace that's not realistic, and it's going to be too hard, and then you're going to be distressed about that too. So if you're running easy, comfortable, yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, Linda, on that. Like I don't know what so what are you going to do when you get to Boston and you're downhill? And I'm saying go by effort, but then you're like, oh, I'm faster than pace. I'm okay. No, I want you to know what that effort feels like so you can slow down or you can speed up. Like, I want you to know what effort, that's part of training, is learning these things. So you have to forget about the specific pace sometimes. So I don't know. I'm trying to be as nice as I can here, but you've got to trust on this. You have to trust me. You have to put some trust that I've done this before and I know what I'm talking about. Okay. So you guys got to believe me on that. And then Marcella actually makes a great point on to follow that up. So sometimes, right. So no, I think that, no, you've got to learn that pace. So like you can't freak out about it. You can't worry if you quote unquote, don't hit a workout. Like that's part of the learning process, guys. It's part of it. So that's making the transition from just being a hobby jogger to somebody who trains and works out and is getting like learning those things. It's racing. So learning those skills, that's where you want to be. And that's my whole goal with getting you there. So if you want to follow that advice, I would encourage you to, but if not, that's up to you. I'm not going to change what I know works. So that's just going to be where I stand on that as a coach. That's my philosophy, and that's firm. But that was the last thing I saw on there on the message board. So great questions, guys. I've really appreciated this. It was great to fill an hour, especially the second half of it with your questions. So some great stuff on there, and I will talk to you later. I'm not sure where I'm going to go next on this. Maybe we'll do a nutrition talk. It might be a good time for a nutrition talk next time around and go over some stuff with you. So, all right. So thanks again for watching. Good luck. Have a good weekend. And don't stress out. Be cool, you guys.